very least, you have a day job to focus on your music full time. Playing some gigs, doing some involves some money. They're all working free, and to not only provide a little bit of budget, but to also write a check and put a big pile of cash in it. The money's so the sensible person banks it in a savings account and then lets a twelfth of the money come through to their current account once a month, and they drip feed the money. The problem then is you're now committed to work full time for the label for the next 18 months and you've got no money to pay the rent. That's what the label is also a campaign around a they are investing in recording that, possibly bringing in producers and other songwriters and engineers to get the best possible launch album. They're then going to distribute require in the main the marketing that is in-house. They've got in-house marketing people. And as I say, for big pop releases, it is still important for pop. How much money do we need? Okay, the label's going to make that money back. Okay, and so the more money the label spends, the longer it is going to take to pay the label back out of your royalties. And most managers, the minute you do a record deal, because they've put in all the money, they get a bunch of control with it. And managers hate that. They hate the fact that the label now says, you get the control back. So managers have to make a decision. Is it that we want a percent of that, remember, and we want a big expensive marketing campaign because that's what 5 years, 10 years, 20 sales, and these are decisions for everybody to make. The idea of that record deal is that it's the investment that will launch the artist, take you from slowly, organically growing your fan base to we've arrived and we grab a significant number of new fans that we can then sell tickets to and t-shirts to and so on and so forth. So this is what labels provide. It's nice of them, isn't it? What do labels want in return? And the two core elements of a classic record contract are copyright assignment and exclusivity. Okay, we, the record company, will own all of the sound recording copyrights that come out of this deal, and you'll be locked into me now for the next 5 albums, quite common to release one of those albums, but latest hits. This deal is complete, you can't work with an get the copyright in that. For new talent, assignment and exclusivity are a given of the deal and very hard artist royalty. So the but they commit to. However, there are some given. Okay, that investment does not guarantee success because you've been managing expectations. Labels years are like, well, what happened? Or what? Labels may interfere artistically, spend $1 million on you. You then bring in that might be artistically interesting, but no one's going to. A&Rs at labels, what podcast? And sometimes what happens with the artists is they go into the studio, they're surrounded by their friends, they're surrounded by, everyone wants to say yes to the artist. And sometimes it's good to have someone who says to the artist, you know what, this isn't good enough. Other times they're right, and that's why the final recording is the best possible recording. Labels sometimes mess up the marketing, or they overspend, and they don't do very good. You are assigning the rights. Don't resent that when they're doing the deal. Shareholders taking a profit. But it's duties that are incentivized to invest in new talent. Okay, most of the industry, obviously, there is some. But ultimately, we look to corporate entities to invest in new talent. And they are incentivized to do so, A, because copyright runs out eventually, and B, because as a label, the best deals are the new talent deals that go right. Okay? Most new talent deals go bad and you never make any money. But when a new talent deal goes right, that's where you make your money. Okay? If you were to sign, I don't know, can't get Jay-Z because he's on the Rock Nation thing. If you sign Kanye today to a deal, that deal is going to be so swayed in his favor because he's a massive superstar that actually you're not going to make a huge amount of money on that deal even when it's hugely successful. Kanye on first deal, where you get 80% of the revenue, for those 4 or 5 albums, you're going to make a lot of money. So the system is set up to incentivize labels to be constantly looking and investing in new talent, and I think that's great. Labels have about a 1 in 10 success. But the way the late majors work is we sign 10 artists. Of those 10 artists, 9 we will never make our money back. Or we might make our money back, but we'll never go into profit. It's worth mentioning that even if an artist fails for the major, it doesn't actually mean the artist has failed. There's lots of artists who never makes their money back. Marketing, the artist builds a big enough fan base that they can now tour for the rest of their life. So the going to be millionaires, but they can live off that money. And there's a lot of artists like that. But the label won't make a profit on most of the artists it signs. But 1 in 10, and then they, A, get some money. Very quickly, publishers. The publisher also, so a bit of A&R, artist development, in missions, and work, to work on the traditional publishing deal. They want assignment of copyright. As I say, in many countries, whereas if a label deal, they'll want more common to say your territories, it's still life of copyright. Usually, the songwriter forces a 50-50 minimum. Least 50% of the money. And actually 70% in the UK and the US now, big name songwriters may be on as high as a 90% deal. But it varies from country to 50-50, unlike the label deal. As we've already discussed, it excludes certain elements of the copyright which are actually assigned to the collecting, and 50% to deals that is different to label deals. That's not the case in the US, but it is in the other controls. And alluded to this already today. Traditionally, assignment was a given in record deals and publishing deals. We get the copy. A lot of labels will provide you their services on a revenue share. So if you're not looking at distribution and admin, there are labels who will do that deal without assignment. The minute you start asking for $25,000 up front, assignment. Okay? But where you're asking for less, access to the services without assigning copyright. And these deals are becoming more common, particularly for established artists. Established artists like keeping their copyright. And so they'll take a lower upfront, they'll waive the advance, they'll probably provide the recording ready-made so the label doesn't have the recording costs, and they'll say, we keep the copyright, but you, providers of the other services, and take X% of the money. Okay? But we keep the copyright. More people are doing those deals. Many labels now have a separate division called Label Services that exists just to do those deals. And there are companies out there who just do these deals. Sometimes they're called services deals, sometimes they're called licensing deals. In the olden days, we called them distribution deals on the recording side and administration deals on the publishing side. And as I say, they're becoming more common, especially for established talent. Somebody talked about 360-degree deals earlier. Okay, the flip side of that is, if you still want a big upfront investment from a label, what many labels, and certainly major labels, will now say, as well as ownership of the sound recording, or, okay, old school record deals, it was sound recordings and that's it. Okay, we talked about earlier, you keep, and then you go and make money with ticketing and publishing and merchandise and everything else. However, labels are now often asking for a cut of the other revenue streams. Why? Well, what I said earlier, recorded music terms between 2000 and 2010. It's harder making money out of recorded music today than it was in the 1990s. And so the labels are saying, if we are going to continue to be the primary investors in new talent, we need a cut of something else to justify that. And so a lot of record companies now will ask for cuts of other revenue streams. Because they have less profit, which means they have less to invest, which means that they need to cut back their risks. And they either cut back or by signing artists later, so rather than signing them on gut instinct and one good gig, They say, no, you go and do your own thing for 18 months. We'll see what your stats are like, and then perhaps we'll manage. And on what terms? 50% of merch. Help us sell twice as many T-shirts. It's a whole new industry, although they might in publishing, because they've got a sister publishing company they don't want to compete with, but they might ask for 10%. This is for artists to decide, and you read system managers and labels are all trying to, in the main, to cut the labels out. They see labels are the best place to go for that investment. Taking more control, doing a services deal to get the management running the brings us to this final day. So everything you said,
as I said, Young Minds in Music. But before you guys leave, I just want to remind financial needs. You don't can. However, I would like for you to take it home, go through it, fill it out, and bring it back and give it to us tomorrow. That really would be helpful in helping us to understand what you spend some time with each other. Or these seminars are structured in a way to allow you to engage in some network as